What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. On this episode of Renovate This Whole House, we'll be talking about covering the stairs. There are many ways we could have covered the stairs. We could go laminate all the way up, or we could do, in our case, we're gonna do laminate as the riser, and we're gonna use a stained pine for the treads. So let's see what it takes to get it done. So some of the things that we'll have to take care of for this set of steps is closing the two gaps, which means we'll change the angle of the step for the two treads and risers. You want to make sure you remove all staples. To be determined how we're going to do the landings, and we'll use the laminate for the risers. And the pine for the tread. So the first thing you want to do is take a measurement of the width of your steps. In our case, from the top step to the last step before the landing, we get an increase of about 1 inch. So I would recommend starting at your widest point first. Reason being, if you cut too much off, you can always use it for one of the treads going up. But you can't add wood after you make a cut. So we're gonna start at this tread here and work our way up. And then we'll come back and do the landings. And then we'll do the final 2 steps. So once you get your stairs cleaned up and all the staples and everything removed, the first thing we want to do is get our measurement. So what I use is a stair jig. They come in different sizes, different types. So on this one, in case you're doing steps that are out of square, all you do is put each blade against the wall, tighten up each nut on both ends, and then tighten up your nut, make sure it's pushed tight, and that'll give you your measurement. And then basically just remove that, and you will transition this to your piece of wood. We're gonna do our tread first, because on the first landing, haven't decided how I'm gonna do it yet. So we'll start off with this tread. So we'll go and transition this to our first tread. The next measurement you wanna get is the width of your tread. So these treads are 9 inches. So you wanna make sure you got your width so you'll know what your hangover is. And on these, we'll probably go 9.5 for our tread. So we have to not only rip our treads down and cut to each side to match. And one way to tell if your walls are square is take a piece of square wood of your tread. This is a scrap tread. Slide it all the way to the side to your skirt and make sure it's pushed all the way back. Then you can see right here we have a gap around the front. So we know we got to cut an angle there. And then you take that same piece of wood, slide it all the way over, make sure it's pushed back, and you check for your gap on this side, which on this side really don't have a gap. So you can go with the square cut on that side. So you could take your gauge and either you can line it up with that side and use this side as a marker and mark it, or you could just take your gauge and put it in the middle of the wood and actually cut both sides. So we're gonna see on this one, we can go with that. So we're gonna line it up on one side and cut the other side with the gauge. So from here, this is our pre-stained wood. We'll transition our cuts to here. And since we're going with this side as a square cut, we'll line this edge up. And that's going to give us our mark for this side. So you can either take a knife and score it or pencil and mark it. I like using a pencil, that way I know I can kind of stay away from the line, and you can cut this at a bevel. But one thing I like about this gauge, and I will do a review on this gauge, I'll show you, is one thing you can remember to keep your numbers pointing toward you. That way I usually keep my 2/16s toward me. And on the gauge, you can see this, you can see it has the degrees on it. So this one is a 90 degree, which means it's actually square. So that's what we're cutting. So we was able to line that side up. And we can cut this, which I probably will, just to get a clean cut. And then if you go over here and look at this side, you have about a, look like going to like a 93 degree or 89. So you have the degrees. You can tell it's not a square as the other side, because it's not right on the 90, if you can kind of see it good. But looking at the angle, you can kind of see how it's actually turned out. So that's one thing I do like about this gauge. It does allow you to tell if one side is square compared to the other. So we're gonna cut this and get it ripped down. And like I say, I may cut both sides just to get a square edge on both sides. That'll be the process, and actually that's a perfect fit, no gaps on the side. And we'll go and cut our riser so it'll actually sit on top. And reason being, this wood is bowed, so you can actually see a gap. So with older steps, it'll be easier just to sit your riser down to get that flush look, and that way we'll glue it here and sit it down, put a few nails in it, and that'll be the process going all the way up. So let's go get the measurement for the riser and get it cut. So here on our risers, we want to do the same measurement with the gauge. And just set it up the same way. Push it out against the wall. And one way, if you don't have a gauge, to tell if your walls are straight, take your square edge, and this is some scrap again, and put it against your wall. And as you can see, this one has a gap coming along the top, which means it's tilted out. Then you can take it, so we know we're gonna have a degree cut on that one. And on this side, we're square. So just as the tread was, we were square on this side and had a degree angle cut on this side. So we could do the same with this one. That's what we're going for. That gives us no gaps on this side and no gap there. You want to make sure that it fits not too tight as to not push your stringer out and end up with a gap along the side of your tread. So we'll repeat this step going all the way up. We'll come back, glue and nail this down. We'll glue it in, and then we'll come back, start with the next step. The next tread and riser we'll do without the gauge. That way, if you don't have a gauge, I can show you how to do it without a gauge using your scrap vinyl and some scrap pieces of your tread. Okay, this one we're gonna do without the gauge. So to do this one, the first thing you wanna do, you're gonna use a piece of scrap. And to tell if our wall is square, line it up, push it back against the back, and we can see we have a gap around the front. So we're gonna label this the right side, and we're gonna put the mark here so we know our gap is going in that way. So then we'll push to the left, and once again, we got a nice cut, 90 degree on here. So we're gonna label this to left, and we're gonna do a check mark. So we're gonna go with that side being square, and once again, we know we have a degree on this side, and we end up with a 1 degree cut on this one. So it's possibly gonna be the same on that one. So we know our cut is going in. So the next thing we want to do, we got this for our template. And if you do have scrap wood, you can double check it with the scrap wood, cut it. You don't want to cut too much off of your template because you want it to be long enough so that you can slide it and it can be back. So what I mean by that, if I take a smaller piece, and let's say we use this for a template, and I put it back, I get a larger gap because this may be bowled in further than this. So by using a longer piece, we're covering all the way to the side at its farthest bow out point. So this is bowed, so we wouldn't get a true reading. So from here to there, we can get a true reading. So this will be our template. Now, next thing we need to do is get our length. So basically, this is length. You want to take it in both places, front and back, just to make sure. All right. So that's going to be your mark. You're going to go with a here straight cut. We're going to go with a probably 1 degree in here, and we got our length. So we're going to work it down because we need the same step size. Let's make sure here. Yep, so same step. So let's go cut those and see how it fits. So the first cut we'll do is to get a square cut on this end. And then get our measurement. And we're going to take the measurement from the back because our angle goes out at a 1 degree angle here. So we're going to take our back measurement and mark it. That's what we'll have, but that's the cut without the gauge. So like I said, it's tight against both sides. So let's take everything loose, get everything set up for gluing and cutting, and we'll go step by step. That's the process. So you would go with or without a gauge. Just take your measurements, be careful, just take your time. go ahead and get these set up and glued in. this is the finished product. So if you're changing carpet or looking to do laminate or wood steps, that's the process. So from there, we will work our way down, still figuring out what I'm gonna do with the landings, or how I'm gonna do the landings. So got those 2 steps, and like I said, change the angle, fill in the gap, and put the wood tread on top. And may just go with the wood on the landings, or may go with the laminate. Hadn't figured it out yet.